Everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
Welcome back to the program. Sean Lang is president of Interprovincial Roof Consultants. He joins us in studio in our conversation about your home, and in particular the roof over top of your home. Whatever kind of home you may live in, you got a roof, and it's all about protecting your investment. Sean, I was going to ask you about snow, and I will in a moment, but I have a question. This is based on just observations on my own street. I'm noticing in the last few weeks, some of the roofs on my neighbors have brand new, bright green, fresh growths of moss. Is November, is the fall rainy season typically in Vancouver, in this corner of the world, when new moss starts to grow in? Or is it just, am I just noticing something? It's that bright new green look, so you know it's brand new.
Yeah, it's probably some new growth, but it's been growing for a while likely. It starts off very, very minute. And it's bacteria, actually, right? And so it starts growing very small, and you wouldn't even notice it at first. It'd just be like an algae layer. Okay. And then eventually it just kind of goes, and you get this flourish of the actual moss growing. Right. And that's what you're seeing. Perfect conditions, wet, cloudy. It likes that. It doesn't like the sunlight. It wants, sunlight. It doesn't grow on the sunny side of a building, usually on the north side of a building. That's true. So yeah, it's definitely something that a person should be concerned about and be dealing with. And earlier on is better than later on. Now, one
of my neighbors I know with confidence is far. Well, he's nervier than I am. I've seen him up on his roof. He gets the ladder out and goes up and does a couple of things. I'm not big on ladders, Sean. I'll be honest with you. I hate bloody ladders, and I avoid them wherever possible. But suppose I go across the street and talk to my guide about my friend, the roof consultant, says that you should do what to that new moss that's starting to appear on your roof? What should he do, Sean?
Well, he can treat it by spraying it with a moss kill solution. And typically,
can you buy that at like Home Depot and
stuff? They're commercially available. Okay. I'm not going to name a product, but basically they're a bleach and water mix. And you spray that on and you let it kill the moss. And then once the moss is dried out and dead, you can lightly brush it off. But you don't want to abrade. Depending on the type of roof system, you don't want to be up there scrubbing and sweeping really heavy.
Ours is kind of an older neighborhood, so that it's mostly sort of old tiles, the old school tile roof.
Like concrete tiles?
No, just the asphalt tiles.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to cedar shakes. There are no cedar shake roofs on my street.
So the asphalt shingles have a granular surface. Yes, yeah. Right? And that the moss is going to bite into those
Absolutely, that's what's going on.
It's going to want to take those with it. So you got to be careful that you're just lightly brushing it off, and you're going to be ending up leaving a little bit of the roots of the moss there, brown. It'll die off eventually, and it'll fall away eventually more. But you can take off the majority of it. But just be careful not to take off all the granules, because that's what's giving you the UV protection. And I think we've talked about this before. I remember doing the roof of a bank where we took the moss off in preparation for replacing the roof. Never leaked. There was just time to replace the roof. But we took the moss off the roof, and it was actually plugging holes in the roof.
Oh, is that right?
So they had a leak between taking the moss off and us replacing the roof because of that. Right. So you have to be careful, but it should be done because moss acts like a sponge, and it'll retain water against your roof system. So, and it'll divert water. On a sloped roof where the water is trying to run downhill and you have an accumulation of moss, it can actually puddle on that moss, and it could run sideways into the roof system. Finding the gap between some shingles or finding a nail hole, and it'll get into your building that way. And it'll be like a mystery leak. You don't know why it's happening. Right. Your roofers can't find it, but if you just cleared the moss off, it would go away. Okay. So it's a concern. On a flat roof, it does the same thing, where it can cause water retention on the roof system.
And by the way, just to extend, I have learned more than a few things working with you over these past few months, Mr. Lang, one of which is golden rule number 1. Never, ever, ever power wash a roof.
That's right.
Full stop, exclamation mark. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Just don't, because you see it. Sometimes people will do it in an effort to spruce the house up, to give it curb appeal before the for sale sign goes. Oh, we'll spiff up the roof, make it look brand new. But what does power washing do to whether it's cedar shakes or the old asphalt tile or one of these membranes? What does power washing do?
Well, as you can imagine, you have high pressure water that is hitting the roof, whether it's granulated or it's a cedar roof system. and it's going to be taking off the top layer in order to achieve that clean look that you're looking for.
Sure, yeah.
So we've gone up on many roofs that have been power washed, and they're worse when you look at them, even though they look prettier. They're now functionally worse than they were before because you've removed some of the protection, particularly on a cedar roof where the cedar actually develops a patina.
Yes, it does.
A skin.
Yeah, it goes gray, and then, yeah.
And even the algae layer that's on the top of it actually protects the cedar. Now you're going to strip that all off. So I've seen these restoration companies that'll go in and they'll power wash a cedar roof, and they put in a couple of shims here and there, and then they spray it with stain, and they make it look wonderful. Sometimes really orange and not so wonderful, but sometimes they look good. But what they're doing also is they're thinning out the wood that's on your roof system. They're taking away that protection layer. Now what used to be protected now has to develop a protection layer. They're also walking all over your roof system to do this work and cracking any brittle shingles,
right,
in the case of cedar. Usually when you're called in to do that kind of work, it's not on a new cedar roof system. So it's on an older, deteriorating, fragile roof system. Now you're going to have workers up there trudging around with cleated boots, power washing everything, cracking a whole bunch of shingles and repairing some of them, and you're expecting to get half the remaining life back. So it's not recommended because of that. You're actually doing more harm than good.
Never power wash a roof.
Yeah.
That's golden rule number one.
Yeah.
The gospel according to Sean Lang.
Yeah. Best thing is to do your maintenance regularly from day one, and that means if you're seeing algae develop, start spraying it.
Right.
And I do that to my own roof as soon as I see a little bit.
So I'm going to go
green.
across the street, and my friend, my neighbor across the street, he's not going to get mad at me for being nosy and a busybody because, okay, well, we get along. He'll buy me a beer and then complain about me being nosy and a busybody, but he will appreciate the fact that you can buy a product, a moss-killing product, at a hardware store or a similar place, and he can get up there, being brave as he is, and just get at that fresh green-looking moss and get rid of it. Let's talk about snow. It's a lovely day today. Well, okay, it got to 12 degrees. It's not the prettiest day ever, but it's a typical Vancouver late November warm, wet day. But winter is far from over. We do get the odd flake in this part of the world. What can we do, or what should we do in this November time period to, if anything, prepare the roof for potential snow? And I'm not talking Buffalo here. We'll talk about that in a minute, but just local conditions, Sean.
Yeah, there's not a lot you can do as far as preparation for snow. I mean, making sure that your gutters are clear and that your roof system's in good shape is probably the best preparation you can do. Snow is going to hit. It's going to pile up where it feels like it, depending on the wind. It can pack up behind a chimney or not, depending on the wind and depending on how much falls. The big thing of concern is the weight load, obviously. When you have It's okay when you have a 2-foot thick, nice fluffy snowfall. It looks really pretty on the roof system. That's great if it melts gradually. But
in Vancouver, all that pretty fluffy stuff gets really heavy and wet generally within about 12 hours.
That's right, yeah. And you end up with this very heavy, sludgy roof mass on your building.
Right.
And what can happen sometimes, depending on the type of roof system, is it'll slide. And as it slides, it can pull on things. And I've actually seen it rip vents right out of a roof system. Depending on the freeze-thaw effect, if the snow sits there over time and it melts a little and then freezes, now you've got liquid that's gathered around a vent or something, and it freezes and grabs hold of it. And then the next time, if the right conditions happen, that mass of snow moves and it can actually pull that vent out.
When the people in Buffalo got 6 to 8 feet of snow last week, once folks finally managed to actually literally open their doors, and sometimes that took hours literally to just get enough room to swing the front door open, a lot of them skipped the sidewalk, skipped the driveway, and went right to the roof, Sean. They started working on getting that enormous amount of snow off their roofs, and not all of them got it done in time either.
Yeah, that's tricky. You know, it's tricky, and you have to do it. What they really should have done is remove the snow as it's accumulating, not just at the end of it all. Because by going up on the structure, let's just say it has 4 feet of snow on it over the whole structure.
Right.
That's a lot of weight load. Now you're adding weight by going up there, and you're walking around on it and moving the building and bouncing on the building while you're trying to shovel the snow off. You could be part of that collapse when it happens.
Right.
So if you were smart, you would go up when a foot of snow gathers on the roof and start removing it and try and keep it down to a more acceptable level. Now, it's dangerous to do that, no matter what condition. It's not a good thing to do or have to do.
He's looking at my face going, this is the guy who hates roofs in the first place. Like he's going to put on his mucklucks and go up there and shovel snow. Good luck, Charlie.
It's not a good situation no matter how you look at it. But my point is that when you have that much snow falling, and nobody wants to go out and do this in the middle of a blizzard.
Of course not.
But really, it would be the best thing to do. Is it safe? I'm not even going to talk about it.
Right.
It's horrible.
Right.
But if you have 4 feet of snow sitting on your roof and it starts to rain, or
right.
it starts to melt really fast, and you have all this water load that's now sitting on there.
And that's their next dilemma.
Yeah.
It's now going to warm up, and they're going to have just an amazing amount of water everywhere.
Well, I
and
heard
it starts on the roof.
I heard it's actually melting at a nice rate.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they're doing well over there, which is really good to see. But if it was the wrong situation and it melted incorrectly and they ended up with this really heavy mass, what happens is that if you have a vent on your roof system that's expelling heat, that area is going to melt quicker, which lets the water pool around that vent, which now lets all that water run into your building. Right?
Okay. Well, let's hope that the snowfall that we've all gone, oh my goodness, over the past few days in upstate New York stays in upstate New York. Yeah. And we get just our typical load, if any at all.
Yeah.
Back with lots more. Our guest is Sean Lang, president of Interprovincial Roof Consultants, IPRC.ca. Check him out online while we take this quick break.
This is Experts on Call on CIL 650.